Say Nothing, a true story of murder and memory in Northern Ireland by Patrick Radden Keefe. The story begins in 2013 at Boston College's Burns Library, where Northern Irish detectives retrieve sensitive recordings from a secret archive, evidence in a decades-old murder investigation. This archive holds the key to a dark chapter of the Troubles. The narrative flashes back to Belfast, 1972. Jean McConville, a 38-year-old Protestant widow raising 10 children in the Catholic stronghold of Divis Flats, is abducted from her home one December night by a masked gang, including neighbors. Despite the pleas of her terrified children, she is bundled into a van and disappears, leaving her 16-year-old son, Archie, with her last words, "Watch the children until I come back." Jean's earlier life reveals a marriage across the sectarian divide to Arthur McConville, a Catholic ex-soldier, and the hardships faced by a mixed family amidst rising tensions, culminating in their expulsion from East Belfast during the 1969 riots and resettlement in the bleak Divis complex. Arthur's death from cancer leaves Jean depressed and vulnerable. Her abduction follows an incident where she aided a wounded British soldier, resulting in her door being graffitied "Brit Lover," and a separate, earlier abduction where she was beaten and warned by the IRA. Running parallel is the story of Dolours and Marian Price, sisters raised in West Belfast by staunch Republican parents, Albert and Chrissy. Immersed in tales of IRA heroism and sacrifice, personified by their Aunt Bridie, maimed in an IRA accident, the sisters initially embrace the 1960s civil rights movement. However, the violent loyalist ambush of their peaceful Belfast to Derry march at Burntollet Bridge in 1969 shatters Dolours' belief in non-violence, asking, "Why did you not fight back?" Ignored by the community and failed by authorities, they are eventually taken into care, separated, and endure abuse in grim institutions like Nazareth Lodge and Kirkcudbright. Michael becomes a repeat escapee, eventually finding stability in the Lisnavin training school. The siblings remain scarred by trauma and the persistent, damaging rumor that their mother was executed as an informer. Weeks after Jean's abduction, a stranger returns her purse and rings, confirming their worst fears. In March 1973, Dolours Price leads the IRA bombing mission in London. While 2 car bombs are defused, 2 explode in Whitehall and outside the Old Bailey, injuring nearly 250 people. The bombing team, except one, is arrested at Heathrow. At their trial in Winchester, the Price sisters and others are defiant but convicted. Dolours, Marian, Hugh Feeney, and Gerry Kelly begin a hunger strike demanding political status and repatriation. Transferred to Brixton Prison, the sisters endure horrific force feeding for over 200 days, becoming international symbols of resistance. The British government eventually ceases force feeding due to medical risks and political pressure. In 1975, the sisters are transferred to Armagh Jail. Dolours becomes disillusioned with the IRA's violence and resigns. Both sisters suffer long-term eating disorders stemming from the strike. Marian is released in 1980 due to severe anorexia. Dolours follows in 1981. Her sentence, remitted just before the H Block hunger strike, claims the life of Bobby Sands and 9 others. A strike made possible, ironically, by the policy change prompted by the Price's ordeal. Hughes, recaptured in 1974, returns to Long Kesh. He participates in the blanket and dirty protests against the removal of political status. He leads the first unsuccessful hunger strike in 1980. Adams, released in 1977, reorganizes the IRA and Sinn Féin, pursuing the Armalite and the ballot box strategy. Hughes, released in 1986, feels alienated by the shift towards politics and the compromises of the peace process, culminating in the 1998 Good Friday Agreement, viewing it as a betrayal orchestrated by Adams. After the peace agreement, the issue of the disappeared gains prominence. The families, including the McConvilles led by Helen and Michael, campaign for the return of bodies. The ICLVR is established. Several bodies are recovered, but the initial search for Jean McConville fails. In 2003, her remains are accidentally found on a Louth beach. An inquest clears her name as an informer, though the IRA maintains she was. The criminal case remains open. Seeking to preserve paramilitary histories, the Belfast project is secretly launched at Boston College, using McIntyre and MacArthur to interview former combatants under strict confidentiality until death. Hughes records extensive interviews, detailing his IRA career and accusing Adams of ordering McConville's murder and other actions. Dolours Price, struggling with PTSD and addiction after her marriage to actor Stephen Rea ends, also records interviews with Ed Maloney, confessing her role in McConville's execution alongside Pat McClure and a third unknown, identified later as likely her sister Marian, again, on Adams's orders. The project's secrecy implodes in 2010 with Maloney's book Voices from the Grave, based on the Hughes tapes. The PSNI subpoenas the Boston College archive for evidence relating to the McConville murder. Despite protests, BC complies, handing over Hughes's and Price's interviews. This leads to the arrest of Ivor Bell and Gerry Adams, who is released without charge. The archive is compromised, sparking fears of retaliation against participants and chilling future historical inquiry. The controversy highlights the deep penetration of the IRA by British intelligence, epitomized by Agent Stakeknife Freddie Scappaticci, head of the IRA's own internal security, and unresolved questions of state collusion. Hughes dies in 2008, bitter and disillusioned. Price dies in 2013 from an overdose. Adams retires from Sinn Féin leadership in 2018. His legacy debated, still denying IRA membership. The book closes on the enduring trauma in Northern Ireland, where peace remains fragile. The past actively haunts the present, and the full truth about events like the disappearance of Jean McConville remains fiercely contested and painfully elusive. If you enjoyed this book breakdown, please consider liking this video and subscribing to get notified when we post our next book.